It don't matter. None of that matters to me.
Yeah.
As long as I'm good to you as my neighbor and I love God. That's it.
Man, I don't want to throw this one out there.
Throw it
This
out.
is,
Throw
you
it
can
out.
get me canceled.
Throw it out. I ain't gonna get you canceled.
There's nothing to cancel.
Go ahead.
Once you start talking about LGBTQ, right?
Love it.
And for me, I just sit where you're talking about. I'm just told to love my neighbor. What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the Roots and Streams podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Llamas. I am excited because I have a guest today. I'm like in my third season, like I've mentioned, trying to set up guests. And this is a guest that we've been talking back and forth, trying to get him on. I was just on his podcast. It released today. This podcast is going to release a week, but don't worry about the time. But I'm on his podcast. You can go and check out. It's called The Shield. I'll put a link in the description below. We get into kind of my background. And now I'm like, hey, you got to come on to mine. And so this is a friend that I've just been balling with, and I'm grateful that he's just one of the group that we have that just shows up to allow us to get together, to play, to have like an outlet of, honestly, like everyone is a little older because we have like families and stuff. But yeah, just a friend that I'm looking, honestly, I have so much more, and through doing each other's podcasts, learning a lot about him. He's a great man, a man of God. I'm learning, it sounds like it already. We're going to learn more, just really fighting for his family, supporting. And I know he has a lot to talk about. And go ahead, Los, you're good. But I call him Los. His name's Karlos Richardson. And yeah, he's going to just get into it today. Los, you want to go and introduce yourself?
Absolutely.
Let's go, Los.
Thank you for having me, man. I really, really appreciate it, man. My name is Karlos with a K.
Carlos with a K.
I know you were wondering, like, how are you Karlos? And that's a Hispanic name. I get it. My mom was really, really creative, as you can see. And my name is Karlos with a K from Chicago.
I like the way that sounds. Carlos with the K from Chicago.
That's
like a bar right there
that's
almost.
Me, that's me, man. That's me.
So, Los, I mean, like I told you, honestly, most of the time the way I run on this podcast, I don't have a huge agenda. Obviously, we're going to talk about probably like marriage, husbandhood, fatherhood. But tell us a little bit about who Karlos with the K is. You're from Chicago. As much or as little you want to share about just like growing up in Chicago, wherever you want to start. You can give us as much or as little you want.
No, absolutely, man. Just understand, man, unlike your other guests, I'm an open book.
There's
nothing really you can't ask me about.
We're going to get some good stuff.
No. I'm an open book. I'm willing to share. And that is what's so unique about my story. It's very unconventional as far as who I am. I'm very authentic to who I am and what I do. Born and raised in Chicago, Illinois, and basically, was raised out in the suburbs of Chicago, went back and forth from the city and the suburbs. Again, unique experience, man. I went to high school, and my high school situation. Where do you want to start, man?
No. So I'm glad you stopped, because I was going to stop you, but I was letting you go. So one, you saying a unique situation. I want to hear about what's unique about it, because it sounds like there's some things there. And then you're going like back and forth. Was it like you were moving like from the suburbs into the city?
Right.
Or like...
Yeah. So my thing is, it's a hybrid situation, right?
Yeah.
So all my family is from Chicago. My dad actually moved to the suburbs with all of my siblings. I'm the youngest of 9.
Okay. So your parents separated.
No. So listen, I'll tell you the whole story.
Let's go.
What I'm saying to you is, my dad raised his kids.
Okay.
All of my siblings in the suburbs of Chicago. So put it to you like this: everyone, all of my family is from Chicago. My dad was the first one to move out to the suburbs to actually give me and my siblings a better situation, better sense of living. And that was really, really unfortunate, because a lot of the times, it was a situation where every weekend, one of my, really close cousins, I used to go every weekend, as I became older, to Chicago all the time, to the inner city.
Got it.
And so inner city spent a lot of my time, and I also have experience in the suburbs. So I was able to go back and forth. And that's why I said a unique situation, and mainly because a lot of people can't be hybrids like that. It's either you from the Valley or you from LA. Like, which one is it? But when you spend time in both, you understand how to maneuver both, if that makes sense.
You calling the Valley soft? I felt that a little bit.
No, I'm just saying. I mean, my thing is, but you know it's a difference.
I know what you're saying.
So that's the point of that situation.
So at what point? So was your mom, your parents together?
Yes.
Okay.
So that's what I'm saying.
Because you kept saying your dad. I wasn't sure.
The thing is, you got to ask me, and you probably gonna have to edit this. I don't know.
Nah, we don't edit here. We just keep it going.
The premise, right? The premise is, if you want me to give you the whole history, my dad and my mom definitely are married, been married over 60 years.
Wow.
Right?
Let's go.
And so my mom had me at 37. My dad was 43.
Oh, my wife was
the
37.
last. Right. That's what I was the last.
My son.
That's
a baby right now.
So I was the last of the Mohicans. So when you say, oh, my parents, they married. They married. Like, it's dinosaurs. You don't hear about that type of situation, especially in the black community.
Yeah.
And so my parents got married. My dad, well, actually, let's just rewind. Right, I'll talk about my dad. My dad had a lot of kids. When I say a lot of kids, he had a lot of kids.
There was a technical difficulty, and we're back. We're back. The audio may be a little thrown off in the beginning, but so you were talking about your parents, 60 years married. You're the youngest of how many?
It's 9 of us.
9?
Yeah, it's 9.
Whoa.
And so my thing is, I'm the youngest.
Yeah.
And so my dad had a lot of outside kids,
to
say the least. Right. So when sorry, that's not the right statement. They're not outsiders. He had a lot of kids before he got married.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
I know what you mean. Like, so just outside of like your mother. Right.
So he had 2 sets of twins, and so it was a lot of us.
Yeah.
And then so when he married my mom, it's 3 kids by my mom. It's my brother, my sister that passed. I'll get into that a little later in the podcast, and me. And so all my other siblings, it's crazy because we never kind of grew up as half siblings. I didn't even know what that meant until I got in my teenage years. And mainly because my dad was so amazing, man, and is. He's so amazing because my dad is 88.
Okay.
And so every year, my dad used to really take us on vacation every year. So every year, my dad is a minister. So, he used to do this church convention. So every year used to be in a different city. And we all used to go to this church convention, but we used to make it a family vacation. But he used to, my mom is absolutely phenomenal because she took a lot of these kids as well.
Wow.
To be able to bring them with us, and we all had family vacations.
Yeah.
So we kind of grew up as real brothers and sisters. I really didn't know the difference. In fact, my oldest sister, that's the oldest of everyone, she practically raised me. I mean, I used to be over her house all the time because she had kids my age.
Yeah.
Which I'm the uncle. Right. I'm the uncle, but I'm younger than my nieces. Which is crazy within itself.
Yeah.
But so
it's like a Mexican thing.
Right.
I mean, it's just everywhere, but we always say that.
Yeah.
I'm love what I'm learning. I like where we're going because. So it sounds like by the time you were born, kind of
over.
A lot of the like. I mean, your dad, having kids with other women, and there was probably a lot of drama before you were born. Probably like maybe, I don't know if it was like, wow, it must have been 60 years.
So right. So what happened was, from what I know.
Yeah.
From what I know, once my dad was in the streets. He was running the streets, trying to be more like his brother. He went to the military. He was, back and forth with this woman and, having kids and, doing his thing with 3 different women, whatever, right? Being a player.
Yeah.
If you will.
For sure.
And so what happened was he said one day he went to the movies, right? And so he had this encounter with God. His mom was always, in the church, but my grandmother got blind later in her later years, and he had to take care of his mom. And so he said he had an encounter with God and he changed his life immediately. It happened like overnight. He stopped smoking, stopped messing with women.
Wow.
And so he married my mom, and my mom was a virgin, young, and
Wow.
he ran the streets, so he married my mom. And when he married my mom, he wanted to be able to show her that, he was done with all of that. In fact, here's my paycheck. Every week, you can manage everything. All I ask you to do is to make sure that you have my kids' Easter clothes, Christmas gifts. Make sure my kids are taken care of collectively.
Right.
But I'll give you the check just so you'll know my money is not going to other women or anything else. I'm coming home. Like I work at Ford Motor Company. My dad retired from Ford Motor Company for 30 years.
Wow.
So he's been there, provided for his whole family. I mean, it's phenomenal to see. My dad is ultimately my hero. So to see what he was able to do from a beginning stages to now and looking back on it, now that I'm a father, I think it was remarkable the things I saw that he was able to do.
I'm curious, and that's an amazing story. I think the power of having a God encounter, that when you hear testimonials like that, I mean, it's just so hard to deny. And I'm somebody, like I shared in your, like, I struggle with my faith sometimes, and we all question some things, but when you hear that kind of turnaround and then become a minister, so you're telling me that somebody can be out in the streets, multiple kids, partying, and then also God can use them to be a minister, to minister to other people. Like, I think it's really hard to deny. And I'm wondering for you, kind of knowing that story and being raised with your father as a minister, what effect did that have on you? I mean, because you're saying how your dad, you look up to him, amazing man, and he is, right? And I think for sure we should definitely give credit to the people that are walking through what God has put in their heart and the revelation and everything. But also that, like, it was God who did it, and started it, and your dad, stuck with it. So how was that, like, being raised like somebody with that kind of story, and now just like in the church? Did you ever I don't know, did knowing his background history ever affect you at all?
No, because you got to understand that I was absolutely the youngest. So all my siblings laugh because, they the one that got, whoopings, and they went through all of that, and I got a lot of lectures. And I didn't understand until I got older that a lot of stuff that he was lecturing me on was scriptures.
Oh.
And it wasn't until I started reading the Bible my own self, it was like, hey, wait a minute. He used to tell me all the birds of a feather flock together. And he used to always tell me it's a time and place for everything. It's a time to cry, time to laugh, time to go to school, time not to go to school. And so I'm thinking, like, well, what does this even mean? In one ear and out the other. Because I just want to go party with girls and do my own thing.
For sure.
And, so as I started reflecting, a lot of that stuff started coming full circle when I went to college and dealt with a lot of my own adversities. I tried to understand that, hey, this is all lectures he was giving me, but it was all biblical. And so to answer your question, man, I could just remember, man, and this was going to blow your mind. And this is a true testimony where I'm going to tell you why I feel I'm a Christian, to all the people that may not believe in God. This is what did it for me. So all growing up in high school or even in grammar school, I used to wake up 5 o'clock in the morning, and my dad used to be in the room actually praying, like crying out to God, to be able to, because one of my sisters was on drugs really, really bad. Like she was on drugs for a long time. I'm talking about, we used to get calls that, she was kidnapped, or she was, with the wrong crowds, or she just got shot at. The bullet almost hit her and glazed back. Like, so we used to get calls periodically about my sister being in the nightlife in Chicago, and she was raised in the same household, but she made a turn. So she didn't go like some of my siblings went to college, graduated, etc., but she chose the streets. And so she was really literally in the streets all the time. And so I remember my dad every morning hearing him cry out to God like that, and it really affected me, where when I felt like I gave my life to God, being in church at a young age, I kind of like threw up the towel. Like, and so this is why I'm going to be real with you, because I threw in the towel like, hey, I can't do this. Like, because I want to live for God, but I'm still looking at old girl booty. Or I still want to hang out with the people.
For sure.
So for me, it was kind of like, hey, like, all I see is perfection.
Right.
I'm seeing my dad. I see the people in my church. Like I don't see wrong. I don't see any wrong. Like everything I saw in front of me was modeled was perfectly. He used to pick up people from the nursing home in wheelchairs, take them to church, bring them back home. He used to bring, food to the people in the convalescent homes. He used to pray for people, give people money, like give people clothes of their kids that didn't have anywhere to stay. So to me, I'm looking around like, hey, so what is my problem? Because I still want to go, and my problem was the women. So my thing is, this is what I want to be, and obviously we know where it came from.
Right.
So it wasn't until later on in life, maybe, and I want to say maybe in my 30s, 23rd, maybe late 20s, my dad actually sat down with me and he actually opened up to me about all his discrepancies.
There you go.
He was like, even right now, and forgive me, Pops, because I know you're going to watch this, but even right now, my dad would be like, man, I love the Kardashians. Like he was like, ooh, she fine. And so he'll tell me.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I'm looking like, wow. And then he told me he used to smoke marijuana. And then he told me. And so once he started opening up to me about all the things he was doing wrong, I started to relate more. And then I started to be able to look at God more, be like, hey, like, we all are sinners. Like, and so my thing is, you got to be your authentic self. Right. And what that means is you got to be able to recognize your struggle. The Bible says, pick up your cross daily and follow me. What does that mean? That means whatever you're struggling with, you got to pick that up every day and follow him, knowing that he will be able to sustain you.
Let's go, Los. Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I touched on that on your podcast about how, like, we get delivered, and so like your dad, right? People talk about in the language of you're delivered from this thing, and sometimes that sounds like it's just gone, and you never have to deal with it. And maybe for some people that's the experience. I'd say more often than not, at least for me, it's like it's still there. It'll still like kind of tug on my heart, tug on my flesh, right? To like, oh, I don't feel like I'm being fulfilled. I don't feel like like my wife's talking to me enough, or so this other girl gives me attention. It's the temptations and like your ability and your desire to still do those things are still there. It's like, but once you know and you understand, like that's just going to lead me to death. That's not going to bring more life. That's not going to make my household more wholesome. And you start to realize those things that helps you to fight against that. But it's not like it's just completely gone. Like you're saying, your dad said, like, I love the Kardashians
So
and all that.
My dad, though, I think that was the problem.
Right.
When he was delivered, it was instant. Yeah. He stopped smoking. So it was so much of an instant. And then now that I'm so secure in who I am and who God is, I understand that just because God delivered you like that, don't mean he deal with Matt like that. Yeah. It doesn't mean he deal with me like that. Yeah. So my thing is sometimes it's not instant. Sometimes people still got to wait 6 months to stop smoking. Yeah. Weed, cigarettes, drugs, and sometimes it's gradual. Sometimes God actually happens instant, and then other times it's things you have to be able to prepare yourself for. And I think for me, I looked at Christianity when I was really, really young as a perfect picture. And I was like, hey, I don't see any blemishes. But that's the same thing you and I would look at if I see a piece of art right now from Michelangelo. We're going to say, oh, my God, this looks amazing. But if he looking at it, he's like, oh, I could have put a little bit more shade in it because he understands it. Yeah. And so that's why, for me, it's not about perfection. And that is what I'm here to talk about. Yeah. It's not about perfection, and that's not what your walk with God should look like or be. So you said death, and we know the wages of sin is death, right? But what I'm saying to you is we have to get out of the guilt and the shame. Yep. And I think that is what bombards us or put us in a corner and lock us down because we all are guilty and shameful by nature. And so if you do something wrong, you're automatically, like if we go get your kids right now and you did this wrong, they automatically gonna feel shameful, guilt, just like Adam and Eve. Yeah. But now you gotta realize that the actual ultimate sacrifice that was done for us that don't make us feel that guilt or shame. And it's a book I read called Freedom of Guilt and Shame that my dad told me about. and it's been life-saving. But other than that, I understand sin is a part of the life we live.
Yeah.
And anybody say that it's not, you're lying. That's what I like about
No,
it.
yeah. No, yeah. No, you're right. You're right. I completely agree with you. That it's a daily thing. The experience is going to be different for everybody. And I love that you shared that your dad sharing his struggles is what really helped to set you free.
It is.
And I think so often, and I get it, it's like the shame, the guilt, like you're talking about, that keeps us locked up. That keeps us, when we become Christians, to like tell our kids like sex is bad, drugs are bad, and just don't do it. And we're not going to talk about it. Just don't do it because it's not biblical, or whatever reason you come up with, right? And you start like weaponizing the Bible to kind of control your kids, and in a way where you're doing, I get it, it's out of love, and you're trying to protect them, but you're also in a way kind of destroying their future, because they don't know, like you're saying, you just saw a perfect picture, you didn't see, and if you only see that, it's fake. So Christianity looked really fake to you. It didn't look, and there wasn't truth, and Jesus talks about he is the truth. And so when you can trust in him and bring everything and bring out all the truth, then you can really start somebody to see, okay, I see that you struggle there. And if you can talk about me, how when you cheated or when you were with that, like what it felt like, and really share. Like I had an experience. I talked to my daughter recently about how I cheated, because she asked about it, and I'm like, man, I'm doing this podcast. Like, I'm really trying to grow. Well, I'm not going to lie to her right now. Like, I'm going to tell her, like, yeah, this is how it went down. And then she kind of got like sad, and I'm like, oh, what's wrong? And she's like, well, I was born, around that time. Like I was a baby. And then I didn't realize like I sinned against her. Like I wronged her, and it just brought like, I didn't know that was somebody that I needed to ask forgiveness, And so I thought it did multiple things. One, I was able to like get forgiveness for her for something like that. And two, she already starting to know that like, yes, we are going down this Christian path, but my dad showed me it's not perfect and I can be human.
100%.
And this is somewhere where even if I mess up, I can find, a savior. I can find somebody who's going to bring me back, and somebody that says that I am still valued. And so I'm trying to, it's not easy, and I get why people don't do it. Because it's not easy to talk about like all of your mistakes, all of your blemishes. But it's necessary. So how are you? So now the question is, how are you walking into that, Los? Like you talking about it, your dad did it. You said you kind of have some of the same mistakes and things that you've worked through. I know you have young boys, right? Are you starting to do that, or have you already done that? Like, what is that looking like for you?
Have I done what?
Exactly. Like talking about your mistakes, right? Like, what have you come out of? Because they're like, I know Carson. I don't know how old your oldest, but Carson's already like
15.
Yeah, 15.
He's 15, and my oldest daughter she'll be 20 May 13th.
Oh,
and so my thing is, what I try to do is I meet my kids where they are.
There you go.
And so my thing is, when I feel like you're ready for this conversation, I think it's inevitable.
Yeah.
So at the end of the day, if you go through a situation, it's going to warrant me to be able to lecture you like I was lectured. And they hate it, but some of these things are redundant. I might say the same thing over and over again. Like my daughter, I was just explaining to her about being able to be codependent. I said, I feel like in business, I used to always have, people around me just to be able to get something done. And then it's easier to do something when somebody else is around you, because you feel like you can pull from them to get motivation to do it. You'll feel like you can always call on them to be able to release. But what happens when God wants you by yourself? Like, let me say this, man. Most people can't look in the mirror naked for more than 3 minutes. You know why? You'll look and you always gonna find something wrong.
Sure.
Oh man, I got 3 pimples on the back, or I should have brushed my teeth a little longer, or I got gray hairs coming in, or my hair's a little crooked, or or what about one nipple is higher than the other? And so my thing is, because we're looking at the flaws.
Yeah.
But how many times could we look at ourselves to be able to say, here's the flaws, but God still loved me and I'm still valued. And that is what I was just trying to tell my daughter. Like, you got to get away from being codependent, and you got to be able to understand where God is trying to take you. And a lot of times it's uncomfortable So you got to be comfortable with being uncomfortable, if that makes sense.
It makes 100% sense. Because that's been my experience of like in this recent like year or so of like mental health, like just finding support in that, like growing in that area. It's not for the faint of heart, like, and it does hurt, you know, to try to really be seen, like you're saying, to be naked in front of the mirror, to like, I recorded an episode where I'm just saying like how I was this chubby Mexican kid that doesn't know Spanish, that everyone expects to know Spanish. Like when you can start sharing about who you really are, and that like, instead of always trying to hide that nobody really sees you, it hurts, you know, like it's real. Some people are going to say like, nah, like maybe some people are like, your dad was a cheater, he's not gonna be my minister. Right?
100%.
So I'm sure there's people like that. But there's also going to be people that'll be like, you know what? That's somebody I can relate to. That's somebody that's telling me that there's hope on the other side of whatever I'm going through. Right? So we can't control that. All we can do is try to allow ourselves, like you're saying, to be more and more naked, more and more seen. And from my experience and what I'm learning is that when we do that, we can actually allow ourselves to be more and more seen by God. Because if we can't even be seen by people, it's really difficult to really have the security to feel like there is this holy God that can see us and loves us, right? It's hard to get to that point. Yeah, I love where we're going. So
well, let me
go ahead. Let
me give you a little bit more clarity, right? I want to give the audience clarity. So my dad had maybe a third grade education, right? So he ended up not finishing school. He ended up going to the service. He was actually taking care of family. And when he came back from the service, he had all of these kids or whatever. So my thing is, this is along the time he was doing his own thing, running the streets. Once he actually, gave all of that up and got saved, if you will, then this is when, his life started to come together. So my thing is, so the notion of you being so responsible like that with this job, that's why he can't understand. A lot of times, him or my mom, they can't understand an entrepreneur that I'm doing my own job, doing my own business, because they are so used to, you work a job, you bring your money home, you save your money, you go on vacations, and you pay off all your bills. Because I've seen this, but that's totally opposite from me growing up. Let me give you a little history, right? So,
I love it.
No, let me give you a little history. I was so different as a youngin', man. Like, I was so different. And you can ask my siblings, my parents to this day. What I mean by that, Matt, is, I bought my first car when I was 16, right? I had a job at the country club in the suburbs, and I worked every day as a busboy. And so we was bussing tables, like when you finish. But they used to have all of these bar mitzvahs and all of these different things that rich people had, because it cost about $10,000. I think it was a month to actually be there. It was like $10,000 a month, because I met Tony Kukoc, and there was a lot of celebrities there, right? So we used to do, so I used to work there after school from like 4 to 9 or 10, and then on the weekend it used to be all day from like 9 to 9 or 9 to 10 or 11, and then we used to go to the parties and stuff after work, me and my friends, right? But we were making a lot of money because at that time we were making minimum wage, but then we used to get tipped maybe $300 a day. And so, I was able to buy my older brother. He went half on this sports car I wanted. I wanted this sports car. It was a Fiero back then. Oh my God. So I'm telling you, I'll never forget, it was $4,500. And so me and my brother went half on it. And you couldn't tell me nothing, because I bought my own car at 16, just got my license. Bought my own car, then I was able to convince my dad to finance these rims I wanted, and I'll pay him back, which he allowed me to do, which was showing responsibility, right? Yeah. I had my mirrors tinted. I had sounds in it. I was the only one in high school with a 2-seater sports car at 16.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
Then from there, I'm just running through the history so you'll know how I feel. I was different, right? Yeah. From there, I actually went to, and this is where I'm telling you all my falls too. I'm telling you the good part, I'm telling you the bad part too. wasn't a good student, right? Class clown. Everybody knew me, very popular, but I didn't really like that school because I used to leave. We had this program called DECA, where I used to leave school early because they wanted you to work because I was working.
Oh, yeah.
But I used to leave school earlier to go to Chicago with my cousin, and then we used to go to this all-girls school called Seton Hall, like, you know, that was on the way to Chicago in South Holland. Then we used to go to Chicago, right?
Yeah.
And so we used to do this. It was like clockwork over again.
You were strategic. You're
right.
I know we could go to the place where we know, like, it is very plentiful, and there's no other man. Like, yeah.
But I'm pulling this all together because although I had my parents gave me a lot of freedom to do this because I was obviously working. Then I was, you know, we was going to clubs in high school at 17 years old, the Dragon Room, all these places in Chicago, right? And then I went to college, and this is how I got into college. So the only college I applied for was this HBCU. That's a black college. Yeah. It was Norfolk State, and I got denied. They said no. So all my friends got in.
Oh, man.
And I did not get in, right, because my grades wasn't good enough. But my older brother that lived here in California, he ended up writing a letter on my behalf and saying, hey, you know, could my brother get in on a waiver program, or is there anything we could do? Baby, please. Otherwise, right?
Yeah.
So they let me in.
Oh, wow.
They let me into college on this program, right? You got to maintain a certain GPA, whatever. So when I got to the school, you got to remember, I went down there with a couple of my friends. We were 4 deep, right? And so as soon as we got to school, they had this whole crew already set up, like the Chicago crew. So we got adapted into the Chicago crew. They had a house right across the street from the campus. So we stand on campus, they stand off campus, right? Would you believe me, Matt, when I tell you, after the first year, everybody dropped out. I was the only one that stayed in school, and I was the only one that actually went on to graduate in 4 years. So everybody else left. They was down there partying and stuff. So could you imagine, after freshman year, we moved off campus, which was the party house right across the street, the Chicago house. And could you imagine coming home from class at 3:00 in the afternoon, and you walk in through the door, and you got to come through the living room. As soon as you come in, the party is popping in your living room, and your room is downstairs. Everybody else's room was upstairs. I had the only room downstairs because I had the biggest room. But my room was downstairs, but they used to I'm talking about drinking, smoking, strippers.
It's college.
It was college, but this used to happen every day.
Every day.
And so my thing is, I came with a schedule.
How is that?
I used to actually go to my room, you know, put on my headphones, do my papers, do all my work, like real early, 3:00 in the afternoon, because the party still was going on. Like, you know, so once I'm done, but that showed me how to prioritize. So I showed you from me buying, you know, necklaces and chains at 16 and doing my thing then, and then going to college and finishing really early. Matter of fact, I bought my first house when I was 23 in Atlanta. So my thing is, it was a lot of barriers I broke down to be able to, you know, do this. And even to this day, I take pride in these things I'm telling you, because it's kind of like I push these over to my kids saying, you got to have some sense of tenacity.
Yeah.
And my kids are not driven like I was back then. And it's not, so when you talk about mental health, like that wasn't a thing back then. I was sad too. And
mental health didn't exist.
I had anxiety too, but we didn't know what none of that meant. And so now we giving our kids a pass because we're saying mental health, and let me check on your mental health, and no, you don't have to go to school, and let's talk about it. How does that make you feel?
I love it. I love the honesty, the brutal honesty, and just being real in like these different generations. But I'm curious now, right? So let's slow down a bit, because you talked about, like, for one, your friends all got in. They didn't have to do anything extra. You barely got in because, you know, your brother like begged them to get you in. But then you were the only one who somehow like just got focused. Like, what was different for you? Because I would assume, right, me wanting to go with my friends, we're all on the same page. We're gonna go party it up. Like, but what was it in you that just like, I don't want to party every day?
No, you're not piecing the puzzle together, right? And I'm gonna piece the puzzle together for you. When I told you I had a lot of freedom when I was young, as far as going to clubs so I did all of that already, right? So when I got to college, it really wasn't new to me. So it's kind of like some of my friends, weed was their thing. So now they got so distracted in weed, that's what they start doing. And then so now they hanging with the weed crew. Then some of my friends, they start working and they couldn't balance work and school.
Yeah.
So they started to choose work instead of school. Some of my friends were girls and they girls. But my thing is the priority came to my brother, my oldest brother, Rob. Shout out to Rob, right? Rob told me, because he went to college already, graduated. He said, bro, the best advice I could give you for school is what I told you. He said, if you can come and study as soon as you get home from class and do all your work, then go party, that's the cheat code. And that really helped me. So I was able to do everything, i.e. Matt and I are in the gym at 5. What time you in the gym? So I'm just saying we do all of this. So by the time I leave the gym at 7, I didn't burn all the calories in the world. 2,000 calories, 10,000 steps. We done did all of this at 5 to 7. So now we could start our day and we could chill. And that's how my strategy was in college. And it really helped me.
It's crazy. I was just talking with my brother-in-law. There's a book. I don't know how popular it is, but there's a saying called Eat the Frog. And it's this small book that I read some years back, but it stuck with me about like, so eating the frog means like doing the hardest thing. That's the hardest thing for you in the beginning of your day, right? Because once you eat the frog, it's like, I got the most disgusting, worst thing out of the way. Now I can go eat like whatever I want because I just got that nasty thing out of the way. So I think there is something to it. And it's interesting though. So I know you said I'm not piecing the puzzle together, but I want to stay here for a little bit and unpack it because
stay here. Anything you want to ask, bro?
No, because I think so many young people, whether they're going to college and even just getting to college, like you apply and you get in, like, you know, you're taking steps. Absolutely. And you don't finish. I get it, but it's just so interesting how, and it doesn't work the same for everybody, right? But how some kids have somebody, right, takes a village to tell them, hey, this is the cheat code. Like, this is what's going to make it different. Like, if you just do this, right? And kids are looking for mentors, like just naturally. They want, like my nephews, when I talk to them, like the same way I talk to anybody, sometimes I'm a little like soft and be like, hey, if I'm talking too much, tell me, or like, because I don't want to lecture at you. And my nephews be like, no, like, tell me, Uncle Matt, like, talk to me. Like, you're speaking like some good wisdom into me. And I'm like, all right, you want to, let's go then. So sometimes some kids, especially if it's somebody that's like not their parent, like that's always on them, they need somebody to kind of help them give those cheat codes, right? And maybe your friends didn't really have somebody as simple to give that simple advice of, hey, this is how, like, you can party, do all the things, but if you can just get your work done, right? I wonder if maybe they didn't have that. And I'm not giving, like, not saying there's excuses or anything, but same with my son, like I tell, like, we really are big on him, like, get all your homework done and then do whatever you want. And for me, growing up, I'm not blaming my mom, the situation. It's just what it was. It is what it was, right? I didn't have somebody, my older brother wasn't necessarily saying, do all your homework. And it was really hard for me to get through school. And I got through college and all that, but I had really poor grades. Like, I barely scratched by.
Me too.
And I wasn't coming home and finishing my homework. Like, I didn't turn in my homework like half the time. So I was just, okay, so let me go back to, like, I would just wonder, like, how many kids are out there that just don't have that little bit of structure, you know, a little bit of like guidance. And I'm sure like you're doing that with your kids, you know, because you saw that it worked for them.
No, so my thing is to each his own, right? Mm-hmm. Some people learn the lesson early, like the children of Israel. It took them 40 years and they could have been done in 2 weeks. Seriously. And then in the black community, it was sometimes it was, do you want to be, you know, you had to think about this. Do you be on punishment or do you rather get the whooping? And so my thing is just think about that. Do you rather, you know, suffer this 3-minute whooping or be on the punishment for a week or two?
Yeah.
Give it a whooping. And because it's over with at that point.
Yeah.
That's eat the frog, right? That's eating the frog. And so my thing is you got to be able to understand where your kids, my daughter is crazy. I see a lot of myself in my daughter, but at the end of the day, she doesn't have, or it's not coming out yet, but the drive. And I can tell you right now, what you instill, the Bible says, if you raise up a child in the way it should go, when it's older, it will not depart from it. That's a promise. And so my thing is, I believe I did a great job at raising my kids up to understand principles, i.e. me. And I think that's when it comes out of you. You never know what comes out of you until it's forced to come out of you. Matt is the nicest person in the world, but if I push you in a corner and force your hand, I'm gonna see a whole different Matt. And that is what sometimes adversity does. And that's why I can sit here to attest to it. When you go through adversity, the Bible says trials and tribulations come to make you stronger. They be perseverance, endurance.
Yeah.
And so that is why you have to go through a lot of that. I didn't know that was in me until I was thousands of miles away. I'm from Chicago. I went to school in Virginia. You know how far that is? I didn't have no family, friends, I had a couple of people I knew that I went to school with. That was my friends. Out. Yeah, they was gone. So how many, i.e. mental health days I did? Loneliness and missing home, or are these guys really for me?
Yeah.
Are they gonna ride with me and for me like I do them? It was a lot of ups and downs. So I'm not making it seem like it was sweet or gravy.
Yeah.
I'm telling you how I was able to piece the puzzle together because it was in me.
Let's talk about that then. So what do you think about, let's go deeper into that. Because it sounds like you brought it up again. What do you think about this generation then? Or just the more awareness, the more just acceptance of like mental health support? And so you already shaking. And you know what? Some of my audience, I already know some of them. They're like, I agree with Los, or I disagree.
All due fairness,
yeah.
I respect and I appreciate therapy. I think that's something we should have had growing up. And I don't know if you had therapy growing up, but I know I didn't at all, right? I felt like I was misunderstood. I felt like, a lot of people didn't understand the creativity. I felt like I was really blessed with the gift of creativity. And I had a lot of ideas and a lot of thoughts that I used to just say to anybody that was listening. And then my thing is people would listen to it and it'd be great. But now in retrospect, in hindsight, I look at it, it looks like, man, he all over the place. Like you got a lot of stuff going on. Cause I used to think of this and I remember, and I'm gonna bring it back to your question, but I remember being 23, right before I bought my house, I came up with this idea. The name of the idea, and it's a little bit explicit, but it isn't, right? So hear me out. So the name of this idea that I came up was called Fantasies Are Us, right? And it was an idea that I actually pitched. I thought of it just driving. I was driving one day and I thought of this idea and I wrote it down, right? And I pitched this idea to Playboy, real talk. So I had a business proposal, pitched it to Playboy, and they responded. I got a letter, letterhead, everything. So I opened it up, and it's like, hey, Mr. Richardson, we love this idea. We love the concept, but we're in limbo to understand where our business is going because Hugh Hefner took sick. Is it possible we can sit on this for, a year? I think it was like 6 months to a year until we can understand what we want to do with it. It's okay if you still want to, pitch to other people, but we want to sit on this idea. Do we have your permission? Of course, it was just an idea, of course, right? So,
it's Playboy.
Right. So what ended up happening is obviously after he took ill, one of his kids took over and they went in another direction. But it was just, to me, it was reassurance that an idea can turn into something amazing.
Yeah.
It starts from an idea. And so now I'm trying to come back down and really down to actually reinventing or come back up with this idea that I just left dormant. But to answer your questions about the mental health, I feel like the kids and the generations of this day needs to really be faced with adversity. I don't think they have to do a lot of thinking like we had to do. They don't have to do a lot of discovery like we had to do. We used to actually get on the bike and say, Matt, where we going? We don't know. Let's go. We're going to go over Sheila house. Then we're going to go over John house. We're going to go to the park and play basketball. We're going to go get some water at the water hose. And then we're going to go to the corner store. And then we're going to come all the way back up this street, up this block. And we're going to explore. How many kids do that nowadays? Turn off your phones and let's explore. Your mom didn't even know how to get in contact. It wasn't even no pagers back then. No pagers, beepers, two ways, cell phone, none of that. And I don't know we telling our age, but I'm just saying at the end of the day, it was none of that.
Yeah.
So I think kids really have to be able to really want to challenge themselves, put themselves in an uncomfortable position. And that's hard to do. Most people don't want to go to jail, man. They don't.
Why are you trying to send everyone to jail? You got me thinking about the comment that I said, and you were surprised when I told you how I pray for failure sometimes.
Yeah.
Because I know through the adversity, something just needs to I just need, it's just weird, right? But I know that something needs to break. Like something needs to just, because for me, I just will get too comfortable, or I'll get too out of, I don't know, I just will kind of slow down. And I can't quite figure it out. And I just need a little bit of adversity. It's a weird thing to pray for. And I hate sometimes that I am that way. And I don't want to revisit the season that I'm exiting right now, to be honest, mentally.
Well, let me just tell you this. God gives us free will.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So my thing is and I'm sorry, I don't mean to be so spiritual, right? Because see, I could go both. I'm just saying I could go both ways.
It's all mixed.
I know.
Yeah.
But I could go both ways.
Yeah.
It's a story in the Bible about this man. He was sick for 38 years standing by the water, right?
Yeah.
And so my thing is everybody would go get healed in this water, but he'll sit up there and just beg because he was not able to go get in. Mm-hmm. So instead of scooting, instead of sliding or going over, he was just standing there until one day Jesus came and helped him in the water. He was healed, whatever, right? That's more of the story. Mm-hmm. But the premise is you have the ability to stay in your comfort zone. Mm. And a lot of us have the ability to just stay there for years. It's not until you step out the window, it's not until you actually take the first step to say, hey, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. And I think that's the difference, Matt, between me and a lot of other people. I was never scared to jump out the window. I'm in California. Majority of my family in Illinois. I done lived in several states. I lived in Georgia, Virginia, Illinois, California. And, I bought a house in Georgia, I bought a house in California and Chicago. So what I'm saying to you is most people scared to jump out the window. But one thing my dad told me ever since I was younger, he said, son, no matter what happens, you can always come home. Mm. And isn't that what God tells us? Mm-hmm. No matter what happens, I know you feel like you're not good enough for that multi-million-dollar idea. And you feel like, you're not deserving of it. But whatever you do, you can always come home and know that I got more for you here. Mm-hmm. Everything is already done. It's not like you reinventing the wheel. It's just new to you. Mm-hmm. It's not new to God. He's seen this before. He said, before you was formed in your mother's womb, I knew you, Matt. And I called you according to my purpose. That's what God said. So if God said that means it was already done, right? I'm talking about the promotion, how he knew all of this. So it's kind of like, it's surprising to you.
Yeah.
But when you start relinquishing control, that's why you don't have to pray for failure, because failure is going to happen. And the Bible say, count it all joy when trials and tribulations come your way. So you don't have to pray for something that's going to happen anyway.
Yeah.
That's all I was saying.
No, it's not like every night that's my prayer.
No.
No, it's just like random moments, but it's been particular times. No, I think that's great. Los, I think some credit, and you mentioned how you having that security of your father, right? I think that's beautiful, because when we can have examples and experiences like that like echoes into our spiritual life, right? Because I think so often the example that we have as a father in our physical life,
100%.
It influences our relationship with God. It can either make it worse. And some people, I've heard somebody say how they actually hate the song "You're a Good Father" because it just reminds them of their relationship with their earthly father. And so they can't get down with that song because it just puts them in a headspace where they're like, if that's I got to think about my father and God, it messes it up. So I think that security is huge. I think that speaks volumes to, I don't know, even taking that from your dad for me, of being sure my kids feel secure in whether they blow it all or they make a mistake in any way, shape, or form. And I do actually try to tell them, I'm like, look, if you fail that test, who cares? I don't care. Like, we'll still figure it out. Like, don't worry about it. I try to tell my kids. Honestly, sometimes I tell them, and it's maybe kind of controversial, is like, my son will get real stressed out about his middle school homework, and I just straight out tell him, middle school don't count. Like, why are you so stressed right now? Like, just do your best. Nobody cares about middle school. High school, let's start counting it, and we can, like, maybe, help you with your grades. But he looks at me weird, and he still does his best.
I'm going to tell your wife and tell him that. That ain't good advice, man.
She was there. But they don't, it's not like it makes them try any less.
Oh, okay.
It doesn't.
Okay.
And that, maybe because I kind of know that, but I just see him get so stressed out. And I'm like, I hate to see him have such like a terrible day and like be so depressive, like some middle school homework. I'm like, I get it. I want you to try your best. But I remember I got like barely walked on stage with like C's. So who am I to expect A's out of my son? Well, I already know the walk is hard, and like to put more stress on him. So I just straight up tell him like the truth. Nobody cares about middle school grades. You don't got to get like, you're not going to turn in a middle school transcript to get into a high. That's why, at least where my kids are going, they're not going to turn in a middle school transcript. So I just keep it like 100 with him. Again, just trying to, I think hopefully I could do like what your dad did for you, to give that security so that then you can kind of feel a little free. You can kind of step out of your comfort in knowing that, hey, somebody got me. I can go, pitch this idea to Playboy, or I can go to school in Virginia. And even if I did drop out, I can go back home, or, go to California, and maybe the business doesn't work out. So I love that you shared that.
Yeah.
Because I get it. Los is built different for sure. And I think part of you being built different is like through your ancestors, right? Through your father, what God has done for them, through like, where we can't stand here alone, right?
100%.
It's been generations, and God has been directing it all. So how is that feeding into you today? Because I know you have a lot of things going on, a lot of ventures. Like, what does that mindset look like today for you?
Well, for sure. The stability has definitely given me the confidence to conquer the world. Seriously, no exaggeration. I've done a lot in my lifetime, several businesses, several success. And, I owe it to my parents, and I'd be remiss not to mention the humbleness of my mom to be able to take in outside kids and being able, she didn't have the biggest voice like my dad. That's why you hear me speak about my dad a lot, because he was the one that lectured and all of that. But behind the scenes, my mom, meekness and her humbleness and her being able to be acceptant and her being able to have a hard exterior dealing with somebody like him, my dad. That actually, put a well-rounded person together in me. And so to me, I'm extremely giving. I try my hardest to edify. I try my hardest to encourage. So I might be the loudest person on the court. I might be a jokester. But you're not gonna hear me curse nobody out. You're not gonna hear me be disrespectful. Now I can speak the same vernacular, right? I can roast with the best of them.
Yeah.
However, certain things are off limit. I understand that. I understand boundaries. Again, I'm very, very self-aware, and I can apologize because if I ever, and that's the thing. In high school, I went to my high school reunion. Man, they was like, man, I hated you. I used to cry every day. Used to make me cry every day by talking about my Jerry curl. I know, but this what they was telling me, and I was like, man, I'm apologetic. Like, I was a kid. I really didn't mean that. Not making excuses, but what I'm saying to you is that's not what I meant.
Yeah.
Like my thing is, and I wasn't doing it maliciously, like being a bully. It was like we all was talking about each other, right? And so, but I didn't know it had that type of effect on people, right? Because I know that I'm a leader. And my dad used to always say, hey, it's always somebody watching you. It's always somebody trying to understand your movements and what you're trying to do. Never let nobody control your emotions like a puppet. Watch this, I'm about to make Los mad. And you got to be able to be self-aware of that. So my dad pumped a lot of that in me, and I understood the difference. So my job right now is to edify. So whenever you see me around, I'm trying to encourage. I'm trying to, hey, what you got going on? Is there anything I can help with? I mean, I'll be the first one. Bereavement. If you lost somebody in the family, like our friend Johnny, he just lost his mom. Shout out to Johnny. I donated to the cause. I pray for him. I've been praying for him. And so whatever I could do to help the cause, we're not best of friends, but at the end of the day, if something happens to one of us, it should happen to all of us.
Yep.
And that's how Christ would want us to be. He said at the end of the day, the 2 greatest commandments, and this is why I love this. So this is controversial. You want to be controversial on your podcast, this is it. So I'm one of the Christians that believe you could throw the whole entire Bible away in the trash.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's only 2 laws you got to hang your hat on. And that's to love God with all your mind, heart, and soul, and all your strength. And love your neighbor as you love yourself.
Yeah.
If you keep those 2 commandments, you can throw the whole. And see, I didn't understand that growing up because we all under the law. We thinking we got to do this right and we got to cross all the T's and dot all the I's. But if I can love my neighbor as I love myself and I can love God, if I do those 2 things, I could forget the 10 commandments and everything else because they all are hung on these 2 laws. And I think now I'm very secure in who God is and how he loved me that ain't nothing you can tell me. Even if you a Muslim. Because see, to me, I can listen to a Muslim. I can listen to Jehovah's Witness. I can listen to an atheist. You know, I'm open. I'm very open-minded to sit down and have a conversation. And I'm not the one to tell you you're right or you're wrong. That's not who I am, right? But I'm very familiar what I believe in. And it took a while. I was in college, and this is what got me, Matt. This is the last one, and I'll pass it back to you. I was in college, I never forget, and we was all at the table right before we started playing spades. And we broke out into a huge religious debate. It was me, I was a Christian. One of my other friends, he was a Muslim, and his girl, no, I'm sorry. It was me, one of my friends, he was an atheist, and his girlfriend was a Muslim, and it was someone that was Catholic as well, right? And so we all at the table, and we was like, well, why does God do this? And what made this true? And so we getting into all of these topics. But I realized that I wasn't prepared. I was only saved through my parents or what they believed or what the pastor said. I wasn't equipped to understanding what the Bible says for myself. So I didn't have any weapons to fight with. I was going off emotions because God said so. And it was, but now you catch me in my older years, 44 to be exact.
Yeah.
I'm a little bit more precise.
I'm about to join you in the 40s in July.
See, that's what I'm saying. Happy birthday, man. Yeah. Congratulations in advance. It's a good crew to be a part of. But I feel like right now I'm very equipped. So it's nothing you can really tell me or say to me. Like in the gym, my other gym I go to, sorry, Lou. The other gym I go to, this guy, he is a black Hebrew Israelite. And then he was like, well, do you know, Mary really wasn't a virgin? And do you know Cain and Abel, they weren't really twins. They was marrying their twin sisters. I said, man, listen. He's like, well, it's in the forgotten Bible. And I said, listen to me and hear me clearly. You could throw all of that in the it don't matter. None of that matters to me.
Yeah.
As long as I'm good to you as my neighbor and I love God. That's it. I'm sorry. No. So that's how you can simplify it for me. So a lot of people get into the laws, thou shalt not, and you shouldn't do this, and you shouldn't do that. But I'm gonna make it real simple for me.
Yeah, I don't think you're wrong. I think it can get controversial for sure, because there's topics that maybe not for me, but I know certain Christians. I'll throw it out there. I'm like positive because once we start talking about. Man, I don't want to throw this one out there.
Throw it out.
You can get me canceled.
Throw it out. I ain't going to get you canceled.
There's nothing to cancel.
Go ahead. No, we going viral. Go ahead. Throw it out.
Once you start talking about LGBTQ, right?
Love it.
Like, to me, right?
To you.
I haven't shared much about this topic, but I'm always ready for it if people want to talk about it.
We here. We already in the deep end.
It has to come with lows. Like, that's where I get to what you're talking about. Because if my God... when he's asked, if you were to sum up, right, your religion, like everything you stand for, like all of, the Torah, the prophets, if you were to sum up everything, what would it be? And this is actually a common thing. So Jesus wasn't the first person to do this. Other rabbis right of his time were asked and they said different things, but this is Jesus's response, right? Of that it is to love God with all of your heart, soul, and mind, right? And to love others as you do yourself. And so that's the way he sums up everything. And so it doesn't matter whether we're talking about gays and lesbians or murders or, infidelity. I was told to love my neighbor, right? So that's really where I sit with everything. And people, especially, so I tread lightly on this because it's a very sensitive topic, and I haven't like 100% like meditated on it, like to really have a full on conversation. But
we hear though that,
but there are other Christians, right, that have very strong opinions on it, and for me, I just sit where you're talking about. I'm just told to love my neighbor.
So my opinions on the whole gay situation is, I'm gonna say gay. So my situation is, I don't have strong opinions on it, right? My thing is, I think it's wrong? Yes, but at the end of the day, that's because the Bible said it was wrong, right? But I also understand that if you read scripture, it's one scripture in particular that come to my mind that throws a lot of this out of the window.
Yeah.
No, two I could think of. One, it says, my ways are not your ways. Neither are my thoughts your thoughts. As far as the east is from the west, that's our thought pattern. Like as far as the heaven is from the earth, that's how much my thoughts are so much above yours.
Yeah.
And then there's another scripture that comes to my mind that said, I got sheep of many fold. And then if you really start thinking about it, like, you don't know who going to heaven. You don't know who right with God. And then you aren't supposed to judge. Judge so you won't be judged. So my thing is, whether you gay or not, that's for you to deal with. But I know one thing. This is my take on it. You're going to love this. I know one thing.
Yeah.
It's defeat when you say I'm gay. Because you're never going to hear me say, hey, man, I'm a cheater. I'm an adulterer.
Your identity.
I'm an alcoholic. I'm a drug addict. That's why I don't like the NA meetings. My name is Karlos. I'm an alcoholic. I'm a drug addict. And because that's not the identity that God gave us. And so to me, why would I say I'm gay? Because that's something I'm struggling with. Now, if I'm struggling with it, it's a difference, Matt, between a pig and a sheep. A pig could waddle around in mud and be comfortable in it. A sheep can fall in mud and just be dirty. One is comfortable in sin and the other one isn't. And when you say I'm gay, that means you just threw in the towel and say, I chose to accept that I'm gay. But then it's another thing to say, I cheat all the time, but I don't cheat as much as I used to. I'm getting better. And so I'm asking God to take this from me. And so it's a daily struggle. That's why it says pick up your cross daily and follow me. Because that means his grace is sufficient. You should be able to carry that with you, whether that be homosexuality, whether it be pornography, whether it be whatever it may be. Because we all, and that's the thing, we all have a struggle, Matt. See, most people don't want to say it, but we all have a struggle. Identify it, expose it, and work on it. Get better.
Nah, I love that you're so honest about where you are with it. I really do appreciate it. And I think we need to have more conversations where Christians can talk about, like, one feels this way, one feels that way, right? Because, man, it's just a topic that I don't think enough of us are talking about. One, because it could get very offensive. I'm not offended by anything you said.
And I'm sorry those that are.
and maybe some people are, right? And I've heard, like, this is where I am when I know I'll do better, right? Like, so if there's maybe something that needs to change in your train of thought, then whatever. Like, but we can only be who we are and like where we understand and where we feel right now. Like we talked about in the beginning of being seen, right? This is where Los is right now. And it may stay like this forever. And this is your truth forever, or it may change, right? And for me, like I'll maybe have stronger feelings or think a different way, but I think it's important to like, just be able to talk on anything, you know, like this.
Let me say this, man.
Sure,
let me tell you what got me to this point. Before, and God is amazing, man. Let me just say that. But before I came to LA, I was going through this metamorphosis in Chicago, right? I was at one of my friend's house. We were having dinner. Never forget. One of his best friends is a gay male. And so he a real estate agent. And so we were all in the basement and we were, you know, having a conversation. And, you know, he openly told us, you know, with me, they knew already. He told me he was gay. But he said, you know what? It has been a real struggle for me. He said, you know, because I got married, I had a child, I tried to do everything to escape from being gay. I try to live the right way, they end up kind of like putting me out the church, and it was a lot of controversial based on me being gay, and I just don't understand. So I kind of denounced God, right? And he was like, it was hard. I used to pray every day to take this away from me. I didn't want to be gay. This was what he was saying.
Yeah.
And so I was listening to him, but it wasn't until, and my wife could attest, but it wasn't until I got home that night and it hit me like a ton of bricks. It was kind of like God himself actually touched me on my shoulder to say, hey, Karlos, what I want you to do me a favor, Los. I said, well, what I'm doing? What I want you to do is take your struggle and I want you to compare it to his. And I never looked at gay people the same anymore. Now I understand, like, whatever you dealing with is your struggle.
Yep.
But if I compare that to my struggle, then it becomes the same. Because there's no measuring stick.
Yep.
It's only a few sins that God speaks about. It's unforgivable, and that's not one of them that was mentioned. So to me, all the sins was nailed to the cross. And so this is not about Christianity. For me, it's about relationship with God. And I consider us to be in a hospital. And if we're in a hospital, you don't never see a cancer patient going to talk about somebody with AIDS in the hospital. And that's what we're doing, because we all sinners.
Yeah.
So I'm not talking about the gay person and he not talking about my struggle, because we're in the hospital trying to get better.
Yep.
And that's what the church is, for fellowship.
Yeah.
That's my thought.
Nah, I love that. I love that imagery. And you're right. Honestly, the church I go to at Freedom Church here in Chatsworth, it's pretty obvious that some people, they're openly gay. They walk in, and you had probably your own feelings like this. I can already see your face changing. Look, I think we kind of maybe don't see eye to eye, but it's fine. So
we out here now, man. We out here, man. Like, we in the deep end. You going viral today. Hey, you going viral today, man. That's the Cat Williams.
Oh, man. Look, so I know at my church, right, that there are people like walking in, and it looks like maybe they're just walking off the streets, like a guy with like a cutoff shirt. And this isn't like a new trendy thing. Like, you could tell, like, some people that look openly and obviously like transgender, with their other, same sex couple. And when I see that, for me, at least where I am right now, I'm like, yeah, like everybody.
Happy? You happy?
Just people that are vaping in the parking lot, right? And my kids tell me, like, why are they smoking here? Like, this is a hospital. This is a hospital for everyone, right? So if that person is struggling with anything, and let me take a second, because I want to be sensitive here, and you probably disagree with this, and most Christians do, and I just never want to compare somebody's sexuality or identity and make it sound like it's a sin or it's like equal to some sin. Because maybe, I don't know, I'm not God, I'm not the judge. What if for this person that's not sin for them, and God makes it where this same-sex husbands, right, are supposed to foster and adopt this child that nobody, because all of the heterosexual people, right, they just want to have their own kids and they're stuck and they don't want to adopt kids. But then this kid can get raised in a loving home. I don't know. I'm just saying, I don't want to limit. Who am I to limit God, right? To make laws. I just don't know. Like I said, I haven't meditated on this. I don't know. And that's really, so I really stay away from like judging.
We here now though, man. We here. and
so,
not that we're judging, but we're here. And what I'm saying to you is, just like your kids, and I think that's remarkable, that your kids would pick up on vaping in the parking lot of the church. Like, is there something wrong with that, Dad? But let me ask you this. Let me take it a step further. What if I went to Freedom Church and I lit up a blunt at the altar? Would that be wrong?
Probably, yeah.
Okay, so why would that be wrong?
I think, so here's the thing. That person that is maybe vaping. I know. No. I'm just saying. I'm saying because the Bible does talk about how, right, like everything, maybe this isn't a good example, but I'm going to run with it. I was like, everything can be sin, right? Everything can be good and can be evil, right? So I'm going to say, like, at least that person that's vaping in the parking lot, they're trying to keep it to themselves. If somebody's just openly like smoking a blunt, I'm not saying, right, smoking weed could be bad for some people, but it could be like what somebody needs. And I think different circumstances matter, right? So we have to take things into consideration. Some things we may say that's so obvious, and it's probably very rare that it would be something that's accepted. But if we look at it, is smoking a blunt on the altar, is that hurting anyone? Is that distracting anyone? Is that unhealthy for some people? Right? We can start to really look at it. Is all I'm saying.
So I think this is the problem with this generation, man. This is my this is my theory, right?
Let's go.
I just believe the church in general is getting really, really watered down, right? Because if you read your Bible, I don't know how frequently or how deep people are in reading the Bible.
Yeah.
But it was a thing called the Ark of the Covenant, right? And it was a thing that was really holy. That was and matter of fact, the priest would burn up if he was sinning and he went inside of this ark.
Yeah.
So
I know exactly what you're talking about.
So if we're talking about that, it's the reverence, it's the honor. I took off my shoes when I came in your house, right? It's the honor, it's the respect, right? It's the reverence. I could have said, man, I got some holy socks on, man. Please give me an exception. I'll pay for your carpet to get clean. I don't want to take off my socks.
Yeah.
I could have been defiant.
No, I would have been fine with it though.
I know that, but what I'm saying to you is you fine with it. But my thing is, even if you fine, that's like me coming in here and telling your mother-in-law, hey Shirley, and not addressing her by ma'am, or it's a way you do things, and I don't think that's ever should change. I think once you actually step your foot into any holy atmosphere, you should go in with reverence. It's nowhere in the world that Slim. Shout out to Slim Abdul. It's no way he can invite me into the mosque and I would come in there being disrespectful. Matter of fact, I just came from Asia last year, right? And I went to the temples in Thailand.
Right.
And so it's certain places where you couldn't even wear jeans. You had to buy some of their pants to put on over your jeans to go in. And my thing is, it's honor, it's respect, it's reverence. And so anytime that I would come into the church with a gun, a blunt, a 40 or whiskey, it's a time. Ecclesiastes says a time and place for everything under the sun. And you got to understand that's, me personally, I don't think there's a time or a place. And now it's a difference. Let me just make this clear. It's a difference between the halter top being wore in church and he doesn't know any better. And your mom say, put on your Sunday's best. And that's his Sunday's best. That's all he got. Then he should be able to come to church with whatever he got on. And you shouldn't be able to judge him. But if you know better, you do better. That's the problem. If you know, that's distracting.
Yeah. I think we're saying the same thing, to be honest. Like we probably sound polarizing different because you started out with, right, I love God and love my neighbor as I love myself. So yes. I think oftentimes when we see others, right, and you talked about it with that your friend that you saw and God told you, like, look at him, the lens that you see yourself and your struggle. So often when we see somebody else and I'm not saying that is their struggle because I don't want to tell somebody what their struggle and their sin is. We can't, right? We want to, and it's so easy to try to do that, but we oftentimes see somebody and we deem that's their struggle, that's wrong for them, right? And beyond that, we want to then say that since they're dealing with that and I deem that wrong, that they're not welcome here, right? That's all I'm saying. And for me, I try to take a heart posture of, one, I don't know this, like you said, this may be their first time here. This is their Sunday best. I don't know them, right? And two, I'm just supposed to take a posture of love, right? So all I'm supposed to do is welcome them, hand them the donut, the coffee. You're welcome here no matter what you're wearing. I just love that you're here. And that's all I got. And God does the rest.
So could two things be true? Can I love the person and hate the sin? So if Matt came to, and I'm just going to use you because we're here, right? So if Matt came to my church and I said, hey, Matt, would you mind being a guest of my church? And you came to my church and you got on lipstick and you got on
I love that you're pushing it.
A scarf. Yeah. You had on a skirt. Yeah. And you got a full beard on with some stilettos, right? Yeah. So my thing is, it's safe to say, because if it walk like a duck, it talk like a duck, it's a duck normally, right? Big Mama used to say, birds of a feather flock together. You don't never see turkeys hanging around with geese, and geese hanging around with pigeons, and pigeons hanging around with eagles. You don't see that, right? Yeah. So my thing is, if you come in there like this, I don't have to say anything, right? It could be exposed by you feeling guilty or shameful to be able to give it all to God, to release the guilt and shame. It's a protocol with this, right? But my thing is, I think everybody gonna look weird, just like if you came to the gym with that on. And, you know, people gonna look at you weird and probably start to talk about you. I'm gonna give you an example. You know, my daughter, it was funny, when they were younger, this man sent his son to the park, and he had on a princess dress. All the kids was laughing at him, you know, making fun of him. It was the most uncomfortable situation you ever saw in your life. And so the little boy had to be every bit of 6, 7. And my daughter was maybe 12. And so she went over to the little boy and, you know, she, you know, brushed the sand off. They was throwing sand on him. She brushed the sand off and put him on the swing and started, you know, pushing him on the swing and making him feel welcome, right? Which I thought was phenomenal. And then the dad came over and to my daughter, and he was like, "Thank you so much for that. Thank you for helping my son." But in my mind, I'm like, well, why would you let him come out the house like that? What you think gonna happen? Right? But the fact that my daughter showed that she had compassion and love no matter what, and she was able to help to encourage and edify, it showed that she has a humongous heart, and she got the heart of God. Because everybody else, I mean, all the smaller kids, it was like, and then my younger son was like, "Hey, why he got Snow White? Like, why he got Snow White though?" Like,
we're saying the same thing.
Okay, I'm gonna give it to you. We said the same thing.
But I will hold some space for what you're saying. Also, before that though, I think, who am I to tell a church who to let in it?
Nobody,
right?
Nobody.
Everybody
should be let in.
But I am grateful that churches do, like the one I go to. Anyone is welcome here, right? And people don't try to like overtly be disrespectful, right? Because there's certain boundaries, and you'll figure it out. So you remind me of, and I know you know this story, and most people do, if you're in the church even just like a few months, of like of the Samaritan, right? And so some people don't realize is like Samaritans and Israelites, like back then, you might as well say like conservative Christian and LGBTQ. Like it was that polarizing. Like they hated, like they were just so opposite, right? But the only person that was willing to help would end up we finding out is Jesus, that is beaten and down on the floor, we can say was the Samaritan, like the person that nobody would have thought would have helped the Israelite. And I think that example of just really Jesus trying to show us that to love your enemy, and they're probably not even your enemy, right?
Well, I think all of this came in, Matt, when God destroyed the world with the flood, right? And then also Sodom and Gomorrah. So I don't think all of this is kind of made up, and they hate people. They don't like gay people for a certain reason. It's a scripture.
It's in the Bible.
Says abomination.
I'm not going to say it's not.
It says abomination. Like, and it said clear as day in every translation. So my thing is, I'm just telling you, and I get it. That's not what I'm saying. I'm telling you what it says. That is where a lot of Christians get it from. They destroyed a whole city because of this. The angels was, they was trying to sleep with the angels. Men were trying to sleep with the men angels. And so enough is enough, is what he said.
Yeah.
Enough is enough. And so what I'm saying to you is you can love all day long.
Yeah.
But it don't say nothing like that about, even the lady that had 5, 6, 7 dudes she was sleeping with. In the Bible, he said, "Woman, where is your accusers?" She looking around because he said he without sin cast the first stone. Nobody threw a stone because we all sin. But he destroyed a city for being gay. Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of this controversy come in when you talk about being gay. But so my thing is, I told you my whole thing is I think it's submitting to it.
Yeah.
Because I just believe we are children of God. And he placed us above and not beneath, the lenders and not the borrowers, the head and not the tail. All of this is in the Bible, and I believe once you understand and know your true identity, then you could be gay and be a Christian.
I love the Bible. Honestly, one thing that...
Or not be gay, but struggle with being gay.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I see what you're saying. But one thing that, honestly, when people bring up stuff like this, the Bible to me is amazing. Like once you study it, and I get it, it can be overwhelming, and there's a lot to understand and a lot that you honestly I think there's never been so much help with understanding the Bible than today. But I can make an argument, right, that saying it may be, difficult, or you may think I'm like altering things that could be like pro like this, right? And then you could have like anti that, because the Bible, there's so many, like in the Old Testament, and you can find where it says that, but then the New Testament says love your enemies and love everybody, right? And then there's just things where it makes you hold tension. And I think too often we can't just hold tension. We can't just say, well, I can't figure it all out. It's not my place to figure it all out. And I can make an argument on both sides. And at the end of the day, like you said, and you said that your daughter did, look, if I got to choose, I'm going to have the heart posture of what I think God would do. And I'm just going to love here. And it's not my place to judge. I know I like my house, right? This is my domain. This is my dominion, right? And I have control of what happens here. And,
or not.
Yeah, or not. And
because if your daughter came and said,
"Oh, we're gonna go,"
no, I'm just saying. Because when you say dominion, and when you say the head of the household and the priesthood, but she got her own theory, i.e., my daughter. I mean, my sister.
Yeah,
she went away from home, and she was literally the prodigal daughter because she was out in drugs, prostitution. She did everything she was big and bad enough to do.
Yeah,
but now that she clean and back home, the prayers of the righteous availeth much. Yeah. So the fact that she was able to come back home and open with, be welcomed with open arms is showing how God does us. So I'm not saying being gay is the end all be all, right? That's not what I'm saying. All I'm saying to you is if you love your neighbors as you love yourself, because we all leading with love. And the only reason I would even talk about you being gay and want you to do better, because I don't want you to not have eternal life, right? So if that's what I really believe is coming out of love, I'm not coming out of judgment. I just want you to be able to be what God said we supposed to be. And if you feel like that's cool, I don't want to go back and forth. You're right. If you don't believe that, that's cool. Yeah. But if you ask me for my opinion, I'm gonna humbly tell you and try to help you along the way. If that makes sense. Yeah,
man. This conversation, this topic could definitely take us down the road. And honestly, I don't want to, I love sharing kind of my view, the limited one again, because I haven't deeply enough like to respectfully talk like deeply into this topic and to meditate on it as much as I would want to, right? To tell somebody like that was like, hey, what do you think? And so I do appreciate the conversation though. I do appreciate like being able to talk about this subject, and I feel like it's hard to get off of now, like to change it.
We could transition.
I think though, I think there's what you said though was great though, about how when we can just love on people, right? And we can tell them, hey, this is my understanding, because that's all we can do. We can only just share our experience, right? And like you're saying, with your kids, with your siblings, this is, you're going to have to go to God with it. And unless Holy Spirit tells me otherwise, like you said with your friend, then I could tell you something different. But
that allowed me,
go ahead.
That allowed me to get better. That incident that I had with my friend happened before I moved to LA. So when I came to LA and it was so overwhelming, because I must be honest, like I said, I don't want to come off like I have it all together. Yeah. Growing up, we used to use a lot of gay slurs. Like, I mean, it was a part of the lingo, right? So calling people the F word or sissy and all, et cetera, et cetera. So we used to do that on a regular. So this is a part of my vernacular. Like I used to do this part of my vocabulary. And so once I actually moved, it helped me to transition. And then I was able to, one of the people that worked with me was transgender. You would have never been caught dead with me with a transgender at all. But this was a situation where God was showing me at the end of the day, these are all my people. And to be honest with you, this person had more love than anybody else I ever saw. Be able to take off his shirt for somebody else. So for me, just to be able to see that type of, love displayed from somebody that you may hate, or because you looking at them because you don't appreciate their views. I mean, that's really, really crazy of us to be able to walk around here judging. Like that's crazy, because if I really opened up your house look immaculate, but if I go open up one of your junk closets or your junk drawers, I'm going to see all the mess. And that's what happens in our life. Like, we open that up, you're going to see a whole abundance worth of stuff. That's extremely taboo.
Nah, that's great. I'm glad you shared that, because it's really true. When we're really pressed, right, what comes out of us? You know, like what fruit, right? When we are pressed, when we are squeezed like an olive, right? And then if an olive gets pressed and squeezed and crushed, right, rich oil, right, will come out of it. So when we are crushed, right, or when we are put to a test like that, what comes out of us?
You preaching, man.
Right?
I love it.
So what came out of you, I think, is very telling. Yes, you can sit here and tell me like, yeah, you feel this way and the Bible says that, and I have these thoughts. But we know when Los really gets put in that situation, love is going to come out, right? And I think that's all that God is asking of us, right? In that commandment that you said of like, love others as you love yourself, right? And that's just like, I just hope that sometimes I get scared that like, and I think it kind of sucks because this is LA, right? And enough people around me I know that like are very liberal, right? And now we maybe get political, but so they see Christianity as like people that hate them. And that hurts me to think like, because somebody takes on the identity of being a follower of Christ, and I get it, we make assumptions about people, that person must hate me because I have this view about, you know, X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, just to think that conversation is even shut off, or like they see me and they see like, oh, Matt looks like a nice guy, but I also heard he's Christian. So who knows, you know, maybe he hates me if he finds out something like this. So to hear though, that love came out, I think that's phenomenal. Like that's all we want.
To the people that are struggling with that, right? There's one more scripture. There's one more scripture. It was Paul. And he said, man, I had this thorn in my side.
Yep.
Can you please take it away? He prayed 3 times. Can you take this thorn out of my side? Now, people don't know what the thorn he was talking about, right? But what if that thing was being gay, right? Can you please take this away from me? And God answered him and said, no, I will not take it away. My grace is sufficient for thee. That's powerful. Because it's saying at the end of the day, I got enough grace for the thing you struggling with or the thing you want me to take away. And so my thing is, that's why I don't, like, to me, I don't go back and forth when it comes down to right or wrong, good or bad, right? I believe if you are being your best self and you are getting better, see, that's what I like. If I come here next year and you did not fix your backyard like you told me you was going to do, then I should hold you accountable as a friend. Matt, you said you was, come on, bro, you need some help. Like, what do you need to do? And I believe that's what you should do in your personal life. Whether that be porn, whether that be cheating, whether that be stealing, robbing, whatever you got, lying, cursing, whatever you having a problem with, it's a little bit at a time, because you got to remember the victories. Because it's a lot of times you're going to mess up, and then what Satan does is bring all of those things to your mind. Man, I saw the way you looked at her. Now God would not approve of that. And then he bring up all the things that you lost. But what about your small victories where you came home and you didn't go over there, or you didn't have that drink, or you wasn't gay today? Like, what about those victories? And I don't mean it offensively. I'm just saying, you got to be able to count your victories.
Yeah, I'm hoping my audience, and you know what, because this is a space I want to hold, 100%. Whether as polished or not polished it is to talk about these topics. I'm hoping like more people can come on and talk about them. I'm not politically correct,
so forgive me. I'm saying it like I feel it. Yeah. And this is coming from the heart. That's what you're getting from me.
Yeah.
You're gonna get. That's why I said there's nothing you can't ask me about, because I done been through a lot. I done saw a lot, ups, downs, good, bad. And so at the end of the day, you're not going to ask me this, so I'm going to tell you. So I'm going to switch gears right here.
Go for it.
Let me tell you how my faith was tested, right? In 2008 was one of the hardest years I ever had to face in my life. Matter of fact, it was the year I got married, right? 2008. I got married in July, but that March, my sister, we were 10 years apart. My sister passed away. She passed away of this rare skin disease called scleroderma They don't know how you get it. It's not hereditary. Don't run in the family. It's really a rare skin disease. And so we saw my sister deteriorate right in front of our eyes. And our family is so tight. So even when she was in the hospital, we used to actually take turns to come up to the hospital to have round the caregiver. Somebody used to work the night shift, the day shift, to always be there when the nurse was there, etc. But I saw my sister go from master's degrees, getting married, Lexus, bought a car, very ambitious like myself. I saw her do all of that to pass when she was 38.
No.
I'm 28, she was 38. And so she passed in March, and I got married in July. That was one of the hardest things I ever had to face. Because my question was, God, your words say, if we have faith the size of a mustard seed, we can move mountains. But what happens when you combine all of our faith together, how big my family is? And we all was praying. We all writing on the napkin scriptures. I will live and not die to declare the works of the Lord. We all quoting what you said, and we believe in you. And I was crushed. I stopped believing. I stopped praying. I was really numb, to say the least. I gave up hope, faith, all of this. Until one day, I told myself I'm going to go to Sunday school. I ended up going to church before church. It was like Sunday school where you kind of learn. And I was there, and this one lady that used to sing in a choir, she was actually teaching this day. And she was teaching about her mom dying, and she said something so powerful that stood out to me to this day. She said, in life, sometimes something has to die in order for something to live. And it hit me like a ton of bricks, because it really brought me to my faith. I wouldn't be who I am right now had I not dealt with that. And then I could remember being in the hospital with my sister before she passed. This was a couple weeks before she passed. And they was cleaning her up and all of that. And, we prayed. I prayed first. She prayed second. But I heard her in her prayer say something that was so pivotal. This is something I never heard her say, Matt, because she used to always pray for God, heal me. Heal my body. Because she had a daughter, her daughter was really young, like 6, 7.
Young. Yeah.
Right. And so she said, God, I don't want to die. She said, but nevertheless, let your will be done. And I was stuck, because to this day, I never thought I would hear her pray that. But that's what Jesus prayed when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane, right? The nevertheless moment. And once she said that, you got to be careful when you pray, though, Matt. You got to be able to understand that your prayer should be in the will of God. So what if it was God's will that she passed to be able to make me or make other people strong? Because she was able to affect a lot of people. She influenced a lot. At a young age. She accomplished a lot. And so my thing is, that's what brought me full circle. So now I started to understand, read more, study more. That's what did it for me. 2008, it was the new beginnings, I'll call it, for my real relationship with God, where I really started understanding who God is for me. Not my dad, not my mom, my brother, sister, who he is to me and what he means to me. It's not about what he can do for me and I can rub the bottle like a genie. It's not about that. It's about understanding a relationship like me and Matt have. I can talk to God just like I talk to Matt. Man, bro, I messed up today. Would you please forgive me, man? I ain't mean to do it like that. I don't have to, eternal God, in the name of Jesus. I don't have to do that all the time. I can have a real relationship with God like I have with you. And that's what's so powerful to me.
That's beautiful, because it's so often, right, through our lows, like we've been talking about, that's where God finds us. And I think sometimes growing up, especially when you're young, so many people, as we should, give reverence for God, but if we only talk about him like in like this form where it's so formal, right? And that it's like so polished, and it's like we forgot about like how David is just telling God, God, like, I feel like you're not near me. Like, you're letting me down. Like, my enemies are behind me. Like, their foot are just right outside. And where are you? Right.
Yeah.
And Job, and there's so many, and Jacob wrestled with God, for his blessing. Like, and the word Israel means, the people who wrestle with God. Right. So I think so often that we try to polish it, but we need to hold more space with just sharing with God. Like, today sucked, God. Like, man, it didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. Like, I feel depressed, and like, who else should we take that to? Right. Other than, because if we're not taking it to God, then it really, I think, can be like a roadblock sometimes.
Let's face it, man. I don't know if you want to talk about the truth, but your wife don't really care. Like, your kids don't care. Like, for real, you literally, I mean, if you want to be real, men have a lot of burdens that they deal with on a daily basis.
Uh-huh.
And don't nobody, I mean, she listens and she cares to a certain extent. She does, but it's nothing she can really do or understand about being a real, true provider. Mm-hmm. She just can't. Mm-hmm. So my thing is, if why not go... This is what I love, this analogy. If this chair you have right here is broken, why not take it back to the store? Mm. So why not go to God, who is the author and the finisher of our faith, to be able to say, hey, like, this screw broke. Like, I want a refund, or tell me what to do.
Yeah.
Because the Bible says, in all of our ways, acknowledge God, and he will direct your path. Mm-hmm. We all need direction. Yeah. And that's a promise. Mm-hmm. He will direct your path. Mm-hmm. If you seek thee first, the kingdom of God and his righteousness.
Yeah.
All of these other things will be added unto you. Mm-hmm. So my thing is, I think we're doing it backwards, man. I think at the end of the day, we go into the whole mental health thing and woe is me, please feel sorry for me. We pour out everything to our therapist, our wife, and the drinks and the liquor, the weed, and we pour everything out. But those are only pacifiers. Mm. But once we actually give it to God, I'm sorry, I'm on the road now. It say, cast all your cares on me because he cares. So my thing is, if you literally cast it on to God, it say he'll take care of it. Mm-hmm. But you got to literally cast. You can't give him go through your pocket and say, I'll just give you the red and yellow jelly beans, but I'm keeping these, the green ones. So you can't do it like that. You got to take all of the jelly beans and throw it to God to say, hey, do what you want to with these jelly beans. If you want to throw them away, do it. If you say I can't have no more, that's cool. If you want to put them all together and make a big jelly bean, that's cool too. However you want to do it, have your way, God. Seriously.
Yeah.
And I think that's what we lack when it comes down to real, true faith. Everybody talk faith until it's time to have faith.
Mm-hmm. I love your zeal. I love your zeal for that, and like your frustration with seeing how we are running to these other things, right? And when we just need to be running to God, right? Because he, like you're saying, he will direct us. I honestly don't 100%. I don't like disagree with that, right? I could put in some nuances there, but honestly, I love your zeal, and I wish, right? I wish that everybody, right, non-believers, could see it, right? And sometimes I'm like, man, I wish you could just experience.
They believe and trust in what you believe in. Everybody believe in something, even atheists.
No, yeah.
You believe in something, Scientology, or I believe it's a greater power, or we evolved from monkeys, right? Yeah. You believe in something. And so all I'm saying to you is I choose to believe in God. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I believe in, Jesus Christ of Nazareth. That's who I believe in, right? Mm-hmm. And I get it. I get some people saying it was a white man religion, but they really don't know that it originated in Africa, Ethiopia. Like, I could get into the science of it, but the principle of it is, what do you believe in?
But your experience. To me, that's what, even in all my questions, right? My diving and like questioning, if I really got to sit there, like, be like, but to be honest, like, I've had experiences that I can't deny.
Or you can't explain.
Yeah, I can't explain and I can't deny.
Right.
And
some people think they want to choose that as a coincidence, man. What do you think about that? Let me ask you. What do you think about that?
You're flipping the script.
Right. What do you think about that? People that say this is a coincidence. This is karma because I did well back in the day, and now I just got this new job. I know I wasn't qualified for this job. Mm-hmm. What do you think about that, man?
Oh man, it's funny because I talk with my tribe. It's a life group about this, and I say this often. I'm always Ah, man, it's okay. There's a lot of tension here, and so it's hard for me to even say anything on this. It's like I'm always hesitant, and I sometimes am too gingered to say like God did that, God provided for that, right? Because if we do that, sometimes we're kind of tiptoeing on like worshiping the money, or that like God needed to show me that He exists through a career like promotion. Like to me, like God's bigger than that. So, but maybe He did. And then we go back to, and I'm sorry, I'm gonna be all over the place here. So just stay with me for a second.
I'm with you.
It's like, but then if we believe that God is like everything, right? And He's in control of everything, then like, yeah, it just, it's very confusing. And I think like Hebrews, Israelites, Jewish people, and like Jesus, they knew how to hold tension. Like they would have debates and arguments about this, and the Bible does it to itself. And so you could tell me like, yeah, maybe something was a coincidence, but I don't know. I've had experiences that they didn't, to me, the deeper ones had nothing to do with money. Money may have played a part, but it wasn't really about that. It was God showing me His love. And maybe it was through money because that's what I needed at the time. But I think sometimes we focus too much on the circumstances of it. I don't know. I don't feel like that's like a complete thought, because this is a really like tough thing that you're asking about. I don't know. If somebody would tell me maybe it was just a coincidence, and I'll be like, that's fine. That's what you think. But I can only tell you what I believe. And that's it.
That's good. Long as you can say that part, because be honest with you, Matt, even when we come in the gym, I'm just telling you, I'm dumb enough to believe that you are the only Jesus that some people are going to see. Mm-hmm. The Bible says, let your light shine before man so they can see His good work. Yeah. And so my thing is, if you miss an opportunity to say that was God or Adam, God bless you, if you miss that opportunity, that might have been what somebody needed to make it through the week. Mm-hmm. That handshake and embracing a guy after they finish playing basketball, that might be the only touch he feel because his wife mad at him or he did something disappointing. You never know. So for me, by you holding back and not being able to relinquish your true love of what God gave you, that's not having love one to another. Mm-hmm. And so to me, I believe that, and I don't force it on anyone either, but if I'm feeling led or you told me it was a coincidence, no, bro. Like, you tell me it was karma or it was luck. You tell me something like that, then it's gonna be a whole different ball game. And I'm okay with educating. You know, I'm okay with that. See, I told you I have history, rich history in HBCU, Black college. I understand where I came from. I understand the Black culture. I understand a lot of other cultures. I travel a lot. I'm very versed, right? But when it comes down to this, I have an opinion, right? God gave me a voice. And if you read scriptures, say, man, I'll make a rock cry for me. Like, that's deep. How you gonna be quiet and let a rock cry out to God instead of you? Like, to me, that's just is blasphemy. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to take it there.
Nah, you're good. You're good. I think it like we were talking about how when we like are leaning on God, right, and not other things. I think like you're saying, we also need each other, right? We need people too. And I'm just going to kind of bring like back in a little bit, just a little bit. See, maybe you could go with me, like the therapy part, the like having space for each other. And honestly, I'm seeing like therapy is not a one, for a little bit, I thought like everybody should have it. It's not a one fit all. And maybe like for me, I'm offering coaching now, right? So maybe some people that are kind of like therapy, just like, I don't want to talk about how maybe my dad is like the reason for why I'm like, I just want to like talk to somebody who can just like help me unravel things and help me move forward. Just as long as we're connecting the people, I think that God really wants us to connect, because Him in Himself, He's a communion. And I think, right, you got, if you believe in the Trinity, at least Father, Holy Spirit, and Son, He's a community in Himself. So, and He's always talking about, you always quoting Bible. So I was like, where two or one are together, right, then He will be as well. And then Ecclesiastes, where three are together, right, it's an unbreakable bond. So many examples of loving your neighbor. There's always a connection. And I think when we really are moving towards and want to be fully alive, we need to connect with other people. And I just maybe, right, think that our God is one that plays chess, not checkers. And why wouldn't he equip a bunch of therapists to help us get right, to be able to then like, man, you know what? Like, I'm good. Like I can overflow this love and this security that I feel now, to like pour onto other people. I will caveat that and say like, yes, I think without having God sometimes, maybe not for everybody, you can kind of be like a hole and you just think about yourself all the time. And or you think about how bad everything is in your therapy. But I don't know. I'd like to think that at least for me, it's been like finding healing so that then I can love on my wife, love on my kids. I have more space for people who are like enemies or that I disagree with, because I've worked like on where I am and found a little bit more freedom, a little bit more space. So that's what I had to share on that. Yeah.
No, I definitely agree. I believe therapists, doctors, all of these people, pilots, I think all of these people were meant to be able to assist. Mm-hmm. Matter of fact, it's another scripture to say, greater are the things you're going to be able to do than when I was there. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what God was referring to. Like back then, they didn't have all the technology we have now. And I think we're able to do greater. So whoever your God is. So if that's Allah, if it's, because I just think it's a lot of similarities. Like even in the Torah, the Bible, and the Quran, the whole Old Testament, first, couple books of the Bible is the same. And so we talking about the same Abraham. We talking about the same Moses. Mm-hmm. Even in Islam faith, we talking about the same Jesus. Y'all just think he was the prophet, and I understand, and I'm not mad at that. So I just want to make it very clear to the audience that if that's what you believe, that's what you believe. Yes, we definitely need each other to survive. Mm-hmm. I believe it's not the ability for us to be isolated. I don't believe, the Bible said man wasn't meant to be alone. This is why we have a helpmeet. So I don't really believe you're supposed to be here depressed in a room all day, every day. Mm-hmm. And that's hard. Like I deal with that. My son Carson, he's different from my other two kids. My oldest and my youngest a little bit more like me. Carson is, to himself, it's pulling teeth to try to get him to talk about what he's going through or what's happening. And so that forces me to be a different father. Yep. I can't be loud and obnoxious like I am right now. I got to quiet my approach. Son, how was school? Let's talk about that. What do you think? So I got to pull a lot. Son, let's, this week, at the end of the month, let's do something just you and I without basketball. Let's go do a paint night, or we'll do something outside of the family, me and him, just so I could create some type of bond. Because, see, one glove does not fit all. If it fit, it must have quit. We ain't talking about OJ. So I'm just saying you got to switch up your parenting. So how I parent my daughter is different from how I parent Carson, which is different from how I parent my baby boy, Carter. Mm-hmm. So it's all different. It's all relative.
Yeah.
And so my thing is, I just try my hardest to be consistent. Mm-hmm. How you see me in the church is how you going to see me at the basketball gym. Mm-hmm. How you see me at basketball gym is how you going to see me at the club. Mm-hmm. How you see me at the club is how you going to see me at my house. I am who I am, and I really can't. And that probably got me in trouble a lot through my life, because you either hate or love Los.
Yeah.
Like I either love Los and I rock with him, or I can't stand the dude. I hate him. Mm-hmm. It's one of the two, and it's been happening for many, many years of my life. But I'm really, really happy in how God made me.
Yeah.
I'm appreciative.
One thing I want to point out there, Los, and I think everyone in the court got mad love for you for sure. And you definitely a baller, and your son is as quiet as he is. Man, he's young, but no, he could beat almost everybody at the court one-on-one.
He can get busy.
But I love what you shared. Have you seen the movie The Shack?
The Shack?
Mm-hmm.
No.
All right, really quick premise. So this guy, his daughter gets murdered by somebody randomly, like while they're going out camping, right? Everyone gets distracted. She gets pulled away. We don't know exactly what happened, but his little girl gets murdered.
Are you telling the movie because I want to watch it?
You should watch it for sure.
But you're gonna give me spoiler alerts.
No, this is not a spoiler.
Okay, go ahead.
Because this happens right in the beginning of the movie. It's the premise.
Okay.
So she gets killed, and like he already kind of was struggling with his faith, but now he has no faith at all. He's like, how could God do this to me, right? And so all of a sudden he finds himself like he gets this message and he doesn't know who it's from. And it's like, I'm here, like where she died. And so he's going to like find out like who would send this message, like that they're pulling me back towards the place where she was died, like where she was killed when we were camping. All that to say, so he has this encounter that he's being told that he's like in the presence, and like there's characters like of Holy Spirit, God, and Jesus. And so God, that shows up as a big black woman. And it's the woman, actually, God's being represented as the woman that like really cared for him, was like a mother figure for him growing up. And so I say all of that because that movie helped me to see even more so that God is, and he is willing to be whatever you need. So I think the fact that you are willing to be whatever you need for whatever kid you have, right? Like Los is loud, like Los is going to like get into you. Like Los is like, hey, no mental health therapy. But like when it's your son, and you say, and you are able to have the wherewithal to be like, this is what he needs, and I love him so much that I'm going to just be able to mold and give him what he needs. And I think that's such a godly thing to do. And I think that's in God's character, because there's so many, we've talked about so many different areas and so many different people. God is willing to meet you where you are. He's going to come up, and I was talking to my dog, like he is, right? It doesn't really make sense in our language, right? And Yahweh, right? And he said, Ehyeh, which means I am that I am. That's the closest thing we have in our language. It just means that he is, he was, he is, he will be, everything, right? And we say he, but it really had no gender to it. And just because God is beyond all of that. And so I think the fact that he could just show up to anybody with what they need, the way you could show up to your kids with what they need, I think is a beautiful thing. And I think it shows really like the journey that you've been on. And I think your kids are blessed for the father that they have.
Thank you so much, man.
Yeah.
The last thing, I'm just going to sum up my Christian faith to my favorite movie. I would encourage you to watch this.
For sure.
This is a black movie, and it's a throwback. You probably haven't seen it before.
Maybe.
I don't know. It's called The Last Dragon.
Oh, okay.
Have you seen that before?
The Last Dragon, like, are you talking like, this is not Bruce Lee. Why?
Bruce Lee Roy.
Okay.
So
Bruce Lee Roy, yeah.
Bruce Lee Roy. Okay, so let me just give you the premise of this movie, right? And I want you to watch it.
I watched it, yeah, but
I want you to watch this movie. But the movie started off right with this guy, and shout out Lou. He was in Harlem, right? And so he was training. He was training his karate. You know, he loved karate, so that was his whole premise, to train for karate, right? And so to make a long story short, it was a bully in the neighborhood, right, that was terrorizing everything. His name was Shogun. He was the Shogun of Harlem, right? And so it came time through the whole movie, I'm not going to tell the whole movie, but it came time that he had to actually face this enemy face to face and fight him. And he was terrified. He was embarrassed by this guy. This guy, broke into his parents' pizza shop. They did a lot of stuff to terrorize the whole neighborhood, but he couldn't run anymore. And it was one powerful line in this movie that the young brother, his baby brother said, he was like, what's the point of learning all of that karate stuff if you can't even use it? Because he didn't want to fight this guy. He was like, what's the point of learning all of this? And so I remembered that with my faith. What's the point of reading the Bible and learning all this faith stuff if you don't use it in real life situations when the enemy try to attack you? And then furthermore, it was one incident in this movie where it was so spiritual to me, but it wasn't. But if you look at it from spiritual eyes, you're going to see it differently. The enemy was winning when they start fighting. And this guy, Shogun, he was winning in the whole movie, right? And he was dunking his head in the water, and he asked him, who is the master? But every time he dunked his head, he started to reflect about who people said he was. You sure look like a master to me. Or I remember my mom did it. He had all these revelations as he dumped him in the water 3 times.
He did it 3 times?
He did it 3 times. And then the last time he brought him up, and he didn't have a blemish on his face. And he had this glow, right? And his glow was able to say, I am.
Yes.
And then the I am was able to beat the enemy. But that's why I'm saying it's so spiritual, because at the end of the day,
movie again.
Man, it's so spiritual because when you know that you got the glow, like we feel now, you're unstoppable.
Yeah.
That means there's nothing the enemy can do to distract you. It's one of my favorite movies of all time. If you get that and The Wiz, if you go watch those both with spiritual eyes, you will see something different. But I go on through life right now understanding that I got the glow. And the glow, which is the joy that the Lord gives me, the world can't didn't give it to me, and the world can't take it away. And so when you see me, you see the glow. So I suggest that you watch that movie from beginning to end with your son. It's one of my kids' favorite movies. I make them watch it.
I know I've watched it when I was younger because I've heard the lines, and I know you guys have sent like memes and stuff.
You got to rewatch that. Please.
That's so, yeah, because now like that I've studied more, and for sure, it does change your perspective. It's like when a movie maker, right, when they start watching movies after becoming a movie maker, you see everything different. So, man, that's such a good example though. And it makes me think of, we always going to be pulling up scriptures of how Jesus says like, you don't keep a light underneath like a bucket, right? Like, why would you hide a light? No, you take it out to shine, right?
That's what I said.
So that's what you were saying earlier about it.
Let your light shine.
I take that. I take that for sure.
Let your light shine wherever you go. I know you were saying, I heard a couple of your other podcasts, and you were, fat Mexican kid and whatever, and you were timid, didn't have confidence. My thing is, Philippians 1:6. This is my dad's favorite scripture. It say, be confident of this very thing, that he that began a good work in you is able to complete it.
Yeah.
Until the day of Jesus Christ. So he's saying, be confident that he that began a good work in you, he already started it, man. But he able to complete it until he come back. Like, that's enough to hang your hat on right there, knowing that it's going to actually work out. That's why I said, what's the point of learning all these scriptures if you can't apply it? If it's not applicable, what's the point of reading?
Yeah.
Other than that, you reading just for a good cause. Like, I was arguing with one of my friends, like, all the time. She know every scripture in the world. And I'm looking at her like, but you complaining because you ain't got no job or you broke. Like, how does that even match? How you going to have faith and then worry? They don't go together. The opposite of faith is fear, right? And so you got to be able to put these things together to piece the puzzle together, knowing that God said he would never leave you, nor would he ever forsake you.
I love it. I love it, Los. And there's so much we could have talked about.
I know. Thank you so much.
We're already pushing, 2 hours, which is fine. We're pushing 2 hours.
Okay, I'm sorry. You got to edit this.
Nah, I don't edit. I'm going to put it out 2 hours, and who watches it, watches it. Cool. Some people need it.
Hey, man, I'm going to use it on there, too. I appreciate it.
And I know we didn't even get to, like, more of, like, recent things, and you're welcome to come back on again.
Part
and
two.
I was
Part
like,
2 of Los coming soon, baby. Part 2.
Because we got to hear about what's going on now.
Because we don't have, next time, we don't have to even get into the spiritual stuff. I get it. But my thing is, however you want to do it. But
to me, there's no separation.
Yeah.
Right? I know nowadays we talk about like it is separate, but I'm starting to realize that.
No, there is no separation. But when I asked you a question, it was specific. Tell me about your wife. Tell me about she. Like, it was specific. And so right now we just flow with it. But that's what happens when you flow.
Yeah.
Especially with me. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, Los. Yeah, thank you for having me on. All right, y'all. I know this has had a lot. I mean, I'm here for it. So anyone else who wants to come on as guests, like I'm always welcoming, I'm here for it all. I want to hold space for all the controversy, all the questions. And I'm just grateful that God led us in this conversation. So again, everybody, thank you, Los, for being on. I appreciate it. Until next time, y'all.
Los, the host.